A recent study did highlight basically 10 things that will keep a volunteer happy. And while we are going to talk more about retention, doing these 10 things well will help you to retain your volunteers and also to make your job easier in terms of issues management and things like that. So number one, volunteers want you to be prepared for them. And so we all have to remember, like yourselves, people are volunteering their time. They're in the midst of everything else that we do in our lives. And so when they show up, they want to know that they were expected, that things are prepared for them, that we're ready to go. I think as volunteers, we all have to have a bit of patience because sometimes, I don't know if you've ever volunteered for a race or something and you show up, they know you're coming, but they're still trying to figure things out. That happens, but generally speaking, if you're giving your free time, you want to get there, get the job done, and go. So being prepared for your volunteers is important. Volunteers want to feel welcomed. That's not unlike, if you've ever had somebody new start at your work, right? Retention in that first critical 3-month period is making people feel welcome, making them feel like, okay, I can learn this. I know I don't know it now, but feeling really comfortable and welcome and that they're part of that group. Volunteers want good training. So if you step into a role and you're not prepared for it, you don't know what you're doing, chances are as a volunteer you might have a poor experience, and having a poor experience reduces the likelihood that you're going to return to that role or that you're going to have good things to say about it. So the more that you can prepare volunteers for the role that you're asking them to do, the better off everyone will be. Volunteers want to do interesting work. The good thing in this case is that it's very clear for those stepping into the safety person role what that work is. But again, if we're taking on something, you're putting in your discretionary time and effort, you want it to be something interesting. Volunteers want to know how much time the job will take. So again, I think being transparent about that is important. It doesn't mean that things don't change over time, and having ongoing communication is really important for that. But having a general sense of how much time a role will take really helps somebody figure out if that's the best fit for them. So number 6, volunteers want to be appreciated. Again, they're giving their discretionary time, so thinking through what some of that recognition might look like, simply saying thank you, an out of the blue, email just thanking the group for their time and for their effort can go a long way. But yeah, people do want to be appreciated when they're putting in their discretionary time. Volunteers want you to communicate with them well and often. So that's one thing, with the Canada Games, I can say that, we experienced a real challenge with when you have that volume of people, the different preferences for communication styles, right? Some people only want to hear from you once, and if they hear from you more than once, they are annoyed. Some people would like to hear from you on the daily, right? You've got all these different preferences, and if I'm honest, I don't know that you're ever able to meet everybody's preferred style, but being clear on what you're going to commit from a communication standpoint and sticking with that is really important. And being just really clear about what the purpose of your communication is and if there's any actionable item. This may sound a little bit cynical, but I do think that repeated communications, depending on how things are going, are necessary. Everybody gets a lot of communication, lots of emails. Not everybody reads the whole email. So sending a novel, you might want the punchline really early on if you need your group to do something, because not everybody has a lot of time to read through really lengthy emails. So again, just sharing some of our experiences and how we modified our communication over time based on our experience working with a very diverse group of volunteers. Volunteers want to know that they're making a difference. So I think that line of sight for making a difference with this group is very clear, but reiterating how they're contributing to the growth of the sport and the growth of the athletes can really drive home, why are people doing this role? What is it contributing to the overall experience? Volunteers want to be socially connected. So that was something that we heard loud and clear throughout the games. People would show up early to our orientations just to chat with other volunteers. So you might find that if you have multiple volunteers, that facilitating ways for them to communicate with each other, for them to have a social aspect, is rewarding and enhances their experience as a volunteer. You're just as likely going to have someone who just wants to show up, get what they need, and go. And that's fine too, but it's just keeping in mind that people are looking for different things from that volunteer experience. And volunteers want to learn something new. Well, I think they'll be learning something new here, but that's something that this study found, across a lot of volunteers. That's why they take on these roles, in addition to sort of that intrinsic motivation, or the fact that, the team needs someone to do this, so we're going to do this. They do want to learn something new. Professionally, it can assist people, if they have a related field. A lot of employers do look for volunteer experience. So being able to highlight the different skills, transferable skills that they're learning, is something that they value if they're going to be putting in their extra time.